They say the moon landing was the most important thing that happened in 1969. And maybe they're right. But for me, it wasn't Armstrong's boot on the moon that changed everything. It was a girl named Linda who walked into our garage with a broken TV and a wild idea. I was 24 that summer. My older brother Hank had just turned 30, though he acted older and looked younger. Thick forearms, oil-streaked t-shirts, and the kind of haircut that said he still didn't trust rock music. We'd started the garage shop on a dare and a desperation. Our dad had passed 2 years earlier, and the house on Elm Street was too big and too empty for just the two of us. The garage was where he used to rebuild radios after work, puffing his pipe and muttering about poor soldering jobs like it was a crime against God. We turned that garage into a business. Sort of. It wasn't licensed. We didn't have a name. Just a hand-painted sign that read, Hammer and Wrench, TV Repair, Fast and Fair. No questions, cash only, please knock loud. We fixed things because that's what we knew. Hank was good with guts, cathode tubes, coils, resistors. I was better with signals and flow, how things spoke to each other. Between the two of us, we kept a good chunk of our neighborhood's black and white televisions humming. It wasn't glamorous work. Hot days, shorted capacitors, screaming kids begging for just one more show, and old women clutching TV guide like scripture. But we made enough to pay the utilities and buy 2 decent bikes, which was the measure of success, far as I was concerned. Hank wanted more. Late at night, I'd catch him sketching circuits he didn't need to build. He'd say he was just fooling, but there was always that gleam, like he was trying to solve something bigger than the flickering horizontal hold on someone's zenith. I got an idea, he'd mutter. Something nobody's done yet. What is it? I'd ask. But he never said. Just looked up, smiled like a mechanic with a secret, and went back to his notes. Then came Linda. She walked in one Thursday morning, ponytail, rolled jeans, and an armful of diagrams and wires. Her TV was an RCA with a dead screen and a half-fried power cord that looked like it had lost a fight with a toaster. But she didn't just want it fixed. She wanted to know how it worked. She asked questions. Good ones. Smart ones. Things like, what happens if you reroute the input feed directly into a capture loop? Could the sync signal be used to trigger a recording event? Hank raised an eyebrow. I dropped my screwdriver. She smiled and said, sorry. I'm studying media tech at the university. Kind of obsessed. That was the moment the summer split in two, before Linda and after. For the next few days, she hung around, not as a customer, but as a kind of unofficial intern. She asked to help. Hank said no. I said yes. She took notes. She drew faster than we thought. She listened, which was rarer than most people realized. Then one evening, just before we were closing, she sat cross-legged on the floor and said, what if people could record TV themselves? Not at the station, in their own homes. Like keep shows, rewatch them, pause them. We stared. She kept going. I've been reading about magnetic loop storage. The Japanese are ahead in this. But there's no home system yet. Nothing affordable. What if we built one? Started small. Prove it works. Hank stood like she'd spoken heresy. Kid, he said, you know how much that would cost? You'd need proprietary tape, a feed stabilizer, a full tuning mechanism, But I saw it. I saw the possibility. We have half the parts already, I said. Linda nodded. I've got access to university gear, schematics, maybe even grant funding. But I need help building the prototype, and I don't trust anyone who wears a suit. She grinned. We didn't say yes that night, but we didn't say no, and that was enough to shift the current. That weekend, we cleared a corner of the garage. Out went the busted RCA shells. In came spools of wire, salvaged tape heads, switch boxes, and a tiny sign that read, Video cassette, experiments in progress. Do not kick the bench. Linda drew blueprints on brown butcher paper. Hank argued. I tested. We weren't building a company. Not yet. We were just three people trying to turn watching into keeping. And none of us knew it then, but we were sitting on the edge of something that would eventually become VHS, TiVo, streaming, even YouTube. But all we knew that summer, in a garage that smelled like solder and root beer, was that maybe, just maybe, the future could be recorded. You ever build something you're not supposed to? I'm not talking about breaking the law. I'm talking about the feeling you get when the parts don't belong together, at least not yet, but your hands and guts say, just try. That's what it was like building the prototype. It didn't have a name. We called it the box. It started as a mess of wires on a pegboard, powered by a modified RCA tuner and the tape guts of a reel-to-reel recorder Linda snagged from a university dumpster. She called it salvage. Hank called it junk. We drilled, soldered, rewired, prayed. Some nights I'd fall asleep with resistors on my shirt and wake up with pencil marks on my cheek. Hank kept saying, "It'll never stabilize signal," but he kept showing up at 7 a.m. with coffee and a new spool of copper wire. Linda didn't just push the idea forward. She carried it. She talked fast and dreamed faster, sketching timelines on cereal boxes, calling professors who barely remembered her, and writing letters to engineers whose names I couldn't even pronounce. "I think we can get video sync by piggybacking off the horizontal sweep," she said one day. I blinked. "Where'd you learn that?" She tapped her temple. "Late nights and long lectures." Hank groaned. "And a hell of a risk of frying the cathode." Linda grinned. "Then we'll bring marshmallows." By the end of July, we had the roughest version running. It didn't record sound, yet. It didn't hold signal for more than 40 seconds, yet. It had to be manually tuned with a knob we pulled off a broken washing machine. But when we hit play, it showed a fragment of the Ed Sullivan Show. Jittery, noisy, black and white. But it was there, from tape. All three of us stood still. I don't remember who smiled first, but I do remember Hank sitting down real slow on Dad's old toolbox and saying, "Okay, that shouldn't have worked." A few days later, Linda came in holding a manila folder. "What's that?" I asked. "Proof," she said. "I pitched the idea to a media tech professor. He thinks it could qualify for university funding, maybe even a research grant." Seriously? Seriously. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. They'd need a formal prototype, fully housed, with documentation. And she looked at Hank. It would need to be presented under a university partnership. Hank crossed his arms. Meaning we register it under the school's research umbrella. "So it's not ours anymore," he said flatly. Linda looked torn. "Not exactly, but it gets us backing. Tools, labs, real support." Hank shook his head. "Nope. No way. This is our shop. Our sweat. Our dad's damn pliers. We give that away. We're not inventors. We're employees." There was silence. Linda looked at me. I looked at both of them. And all I could think was, we'd come too far to stop now. That night, I stayed in the garage after everyone left. The prototype blinked on the bench, warm to the touch. I opened Dad's old notebook, the one with schematics for radio repairs and half-finished projects, and I found a line he'd once written. "A man's job is not to keep the world as it is. It's to build the one that ought to be." I didn't sleep much. The next morning, I told Hank, "Let's finish one full unit. Our way. No strings." He narrowed his eyes. "And then we decide." He nodded. "One." We built it in 6 days. Linda handled the casework, wood, rounded edges, metal trim. Hank rigged a signal stabilizer out of parts from an old military radio. I mapped the wiring by hand, then remapped it twice when the first print caught fire. Literally, we finished it on a Friday. It was ugly, heavy, loud, but when we hooked it up to the TV, it recorded, played back, and worked consistently. We sat there, the three of us, watching I Love Lucy loop back from tape. Hank didn't say anything. He just nodded and went inside. Later that night, Linda asked, "You think he'll come around?" I shrugged. He believes in the build, but not in the world. She sat beside me on the workbench, elbows on knees. "People are going to want this," she said softly. "Not just because it works, but because it gives them something they've never had, control over what they see, what they keep." I glanced at her. "And you want to be the one who gives it to them?" She smiled. "I want people to own their stories." I smiled back, because whether it was about television or memory or something else entirely, I knew exactly what she meant. We didn't plan to show the prototype to anyone. Not yet. Not until it was polished, quiet, presentable. But things in garages have a way of leaking. That Friday afternoon, Linda's friend Mark from the university dropped by just to see the thing. By Sunday, he'd brought 2 classmates. By Tuesday, one of the professors showed up, a man with a suit that didn't match his socks, but eyes that clocked every solder point on our board. By the following weekend, we had a crowd. It started as a demo for 5 people, then 10, then 15. Neighbors stood in the driveway. Hank had to drag out 2 fans to keep the air moving, and Linda had to rewrite the signal stabilization diagram in big black marker so people could follow along. And then we hit play. The image flickered, then held. It was a live recording of that afternoon's local news. Anchor in a tan jacket, announcing a heat wave coming up from Arizona. Then a moment later, the same footage, replayed from the prototype. Not live, not broadcast. Recorded. The crowd gasped. Someone clapped. A kid in the back yelled, "Play it again." We did. That was the moment it became real. Not just a project. Not just an idea. But something that made people feel like they were part of the future. After the crowd left, Hank sat on the porch with a beer, watching the sky like it had something to say. I brought him a second bottle. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "I just didn't think it'd work that well." Linda appeared with a clipboard. "We had 23 people show up today." Hank chuckled. "If we keep this up, we'll need a popcorn machine." That night, everything changed. A man knocked on our door around 8:45 p.m. Late 30s, blazer in the heat, briefcase that squeaked like new shoes. Said his name was Alan Breyer, Regional Development Rep from Tri-Signal Technologies. "I heard about your little invention," he said with a politician's smile. "You kids might be sitting on something big." We invited him into the garage, showed him the box. He asked the usual questions. How long can it record? Can it handle color? What's the per unit cost? Then he asked the question that told us why he was really there. "Have you considered licensing it?" Hank crossed his arms. "Licensing what?" "The technology. Tri-Signal would be happy to take this into development, real production scale. We'd handle manufacturing, distribution, marketing, and of course, you 3 would be compensated. Very fairly." Linda raised an eyebrow. "Define fairly." Breyer smiled. "Low 6 figures up front. Ongoing percentage on sales." I didn't say anything. 6 figures. We could fix the roof, buy new gear, maybe even move out of the garage. But Hank was already shaking his head. "We're not selling," he said. "Not yet." Breyer looked surprised. "Why not? You think you can launch this on your own? You don't have a company. You don't even have patents." Linda stepped forward. "We filed provisional ones last week." Breyer paused. His smile dimmed just a little. "Well," he said, "that's ambitious. But the market moves fast. If you don't take it to scale soon, someone else will." He looked at me, then at Linda. "Think about it." Then he left his card on the bench, next to a still warm capacitor. That night, Hank and I argued. Not loudly, not angry, but enough to hurt. "We've got something real," I said. "Why not partner at least?" "Because once we give it away," he said, "we don't get it back. But we can't keep running this from our garage forever." He stood, arms crossed. "Why not?" And there it was. The truth. He didn't want more. Not really. Not like we did. Linda sat with me on the back steps while Hank worked late alone. She didn't push, just asked, "What do you want out of this?" I thought for a long time. "I want people to be able to watch their kids grow up on tape," I said. "To record birthdays. Their wedding. A Tuesday night, when someone fell asleep on the couch with the TV still on. I want them to own their own time." She smiled. "Then we can't stop now." The next day, Hank was gone before sunrise. He left a note. "I'm not quitting. I just need time. Don't do anything until I get back." No signature. Just a wrench laid gently on top of it. He was gone for 2 days. During that time, Linda and I got a letter from the university. The professor she'd pitched the idea to, he wanted us to present at a real tech demo with real investors. In 2 weeks, I held the paper, felt the weight of it. It was happening. The garage had started it, but the world was knocking, and Hank wasn't there to answer. I still have it. The original prototype, the box, dusty, heavy, quiet now. It sits on the shelf in my office like a sleeping dog. Sometimes I turn it on, just to hear the click of the relay, the slow hum of the fan, the sound of a future waking up for a moment before falling back asleep. It's been over 30 years since that summer, but I remember it like last week. Because you never forget the first time you made something that wasn't supposed to exist. The demo at the university? It worked. Sort of. The signal wobbled. The sound cut out halfway through. But the room full of professors and engineers gasped anyway, because what they saw was the future. Not the clean, corporate kind, but the messy, garage-built kind. The kind made by hands that didn't always know what they were doing, but knew exactly why they were doing it. After the presentation, things moved fast. Too fast. We got offers. From companies I'd only seen in ads, Magnavox, RCA, even Sony. They wanted to partner, buy, silence, or absorb us. One company offered Hank a salary that would have paid off our entire street. He didn't take it. Instead, he walked. Not angrily. Not bitterly. He just said, "I built what I wanted to build. Now it's yours to protect." And then he left the garage to me and Linda. Linda. God, where do I start? She wasn't just the spark. She was the current, the drive, the fight. She refused to let anyone own the idea unless they honored it. We turned down 3 deals that would have made us rich, but buried the design behind patents. Eventually, we licensed a version of it to a mid-sized electronics company in Ohio. A small deal, quiet and honest. They let us keep the name. Open Reel. Catchy, right? It wasn't the first VCR on the market, but it was the first one that was open source. That's what made it spread. Young engineers across the country, some still in school, got a hold of our schematics. They improved it, shrunk it, added sound, and in a few years, the home recording revolution had started. I didn't become a CEO. That was never the point. I taught engineering at a community college for 20 years. Kept a small workshop in the back. Let students take apart the box and put it back together, if they were careful. Linda started a nonprofit that helped girls get into tech. It's still running, still changing lives. We never married. Not each other, anyway. But she always sent me a postcard every July 18th, the day we got it to play Ed Sullivan off tape. Every postcard ended the same way. Keep building what you believe in, even if no one believes it yet. And Hank, he moved up north, bought a cabin near Traverse City, fixed boats for a living, taught kids how to rewire motors. He never once said he regretted anything. He never had to. We stayed close. Sometimes he'd send me a box of parts with no note. Just pieces of something he thought I could make better. I still have one of those boxes. Still unopened. The last time I plugged in the box, it gave me 3 seconds of footage before the tape caught and stopped. It was a clip from 1971. A kid's birthday party. A crooked cake. A woman laughing just off camera. No famous faces. No network broadcast. Just a family. Holding a memory. That's why we built it. So people could keep what mattered. Even when the world moved on. When young engineers today ask me what it was like, I tell them this. We didn't know what we were doing, but we knew what we didn't want. To wait for permission, to be told it couldn't be done, to have someone else decide what memories were worth keeping. So we built it, with wires and sweat and stubbornness. And when it played back for the first time, we knew the world had changed, because now we could press rewind.